Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Levitt-McKeedy. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives. Welcome back to Empire Building. Kimber and Seychelle are here with you today. And this is a really interesting episode that we're going to cover today because Kimber and I have been talking a lot about growth. And growth can be awesome. It can be hard. It can be beautiful. It can be messy. And what we've really been talking about over the last several days is really that idea of your business, your leadership, and your life grow to the extent that you are willing to grow. And when you as an empire builder start focusing on personal and business growth, lots of other things start growing and changing. And this natural evolution of top grading starts to occur. And Kimber and I were talking about just even the definition of top grading and what that looks like. And so often we hear about top grading, meaning where you keep the things that are working and you literally top out. You top grade. It's like topsoil, right? You bring in fresh soil or you bring in the top above that of new things and you top grade out the things that aren't working. You release and bring in fresh things to make it better, to improve, to literally level up to the next level.
And sometimes I think it can be a term that people can have a negative connotation with of like, we're going to bring in and then push everybody out. And I think like I would release that as a definition because I think, say, what you just said is the right way to think about it, right? What are you like leveling up in? And that allows you to then release the things that maybe haven't been serving or haven't been as effective. And I think I love this conversation because I think so much about when we see, the opportunity that we have to work with our Empire Circle members at Her Best Life, it's you get to watch people really sometimes take a very counterintuitive approach to working from the inside out. And so then they start working on their own personal development, sometimes saying like, oh, I'm okay if the business doesn't move forward. I'm just really going to take this season and focus on myself. And what that actually does is actually unlocks growth in all aspects of their life, but it really often has required them top grading, leveling up in their personal lives to then kind of create a different circle that kind of supports that overall growth. So I'm excited to kind of unpack this a little bit today with you.
I love this. So today we're going to dig deep in what it looks like as an empire builder to top grade not only your business, but also to top grade your life as your business and your personal development grow.
Yes. And this is actually a little known fact, or maybe a popular known fact, is that this is the year of the snake in the Chinese zodiac.
I did not know that, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't either. So see, all the fun things we learn, we'll get ready to share with you guys. So what does that mean? Like when you think about this year of shedding, it means you're going to shed things that no longer support you and your well-being. Like think about how literally a snake is shedding its skin and like creating a new set of skin, right? It allows us to move with purpose and not pressure, to transform quietly yet powerfully. And I love this part, right? Vex King kind of shares this as part of the concept he was introducing for the year. And it allows your growth to speak louder than revenge ever could, right? Ooh. Like it allows your growth to speak volumes of who you are and what you're doing, louder than anything else that you do could. So we're going to embrace that and talk about ways that we can shed and level up.
I love that one. It's so interesting because we often see when empire builders start really growing and thriving, oftentimes people notice 3 and 5 years in, they're like, wow, you are so successful. Wow, you have arrived, or whatever statement you want to make. Like, this person is doing amazing. But what they don't realize is all of the things that we have had to shed along the way, personally, inner, right, all these different things we're going to talk about to actually show up as that person a couple of years down the road. So I'm super excited for this conversation because it's so essential, and I don't think we talk about it enough and give ourselves permission with it enough to be able to really embrace who we have to become in this journey.
Yes. And so we're gonna take you in a different direction from top grading, because like take out of the, there is a people part of top grading in our lives, but a lot of times it's actually top grading how we think about an area or an aspect of our life. And we wanna, eat the elephant one bite at a time. So you're like, think about a specific area of your life. If you look at your goals for the year, is there an area? And health is one that I think is a good just operating example. You might think, hey, I really want to top grade. I want to make a difference in this aspect of my life. And so you might think, hey, what did that look like, right? What did that look like for me in the prior year? What kind of relationship did I have to working out? What kind of habits did I have around food? How often was I eating out? Like, what did that look like? And so top grading in that way would actually might say, hey, instead of eating out, 5 times a week, we're going to eat out 2 times a week, right? Like something simple that you're saying, hey, we're going to actually change the way we do this. We might actually think about what are the communities? What are the groups that I'm a part of that are actually talking about healthy meals and food? What am I following? What am I consuming from an information standpoint that's going to help me evolve, right? Because if you're going to stay in the same spot, you're going to get the same result or a lesser result. So if you're saying, hey, this is something that's really important and I want to change, what are the aspects of that to take that from a level C to an A? If you're going to say, hey, I'm going to end the year and I'm going to say, I got an A, and the focus around this, it's going to require you to think differently, level up, and ultimately like top grade your habits, behaviors to get to a different result in that aspect of your life. So taking one of those, and we're going to unpack a couple more of those.
One and a practical example of that you gave was the eating out. And I think another way to think about that is Christy in our Empire Circle talked about how she wanted 80% of her food to actually be grown or sourced at their house. And so she got very intentional about creating planned gardens at her home. And she really dove into the benefits of growing her own food and cooking her own food and making everything at home and what that has done transformatively from the inside out, literally from their gut health. But really embracing that. And I think about Nicole, who's another Empire Circle member of ours, and she's taken it to where someone comes to her home, it's a leverage point, right? And helps prepare meals at her house so that she can eat them at home instead of eating them out. And that's another way to accomplish something similar. But literally it's a top grading of what you're putting in your body in order to be able to do that. Another idea could be water. Water is 60% of our bodies. And so taking literally the first thing you do in the morning, instead of grabbing your phone and scrolling, maybe it's grabbing a giant glass of water and putting that into your body first. And so it could be top grading a simple habit that allows you then to snowball into something bigger and that builds trust with yourself to be able to grow.
I love that.
The second one I would love to top grade and discuss is mindset. I think this is such a huge one. And there's all sorts of podcasts talking about it right now too, but I think it's so good. And the thing that I, in my 40s, have been shedding is letting go of what other people think about me. Letting go of other people's opinions, letting go of how much I care about it. And man, it feels so good. So good. And so I have been shedding and top grading what I'm allowing in my mindset, what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, who I'm talking to, and just who I'm letting into my mental space. And it's just really nice just to not care. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and maybe some of you are already there and I applaud you, but it took me a while to just not care as much. And focus more on protecting my inner peace. And sometimes it's people that are really close to you that are wanting to really tell you what they care about what you're doing or how you're doing things. And I've just really started giving fewer cares. And it is awesome. So if you are not there yet, come join me in the I care less about what you think about me bucket. And it feels awesome. So
Yeah.
I've been top grading my mindset.
I love that. And think about Mel Robbins and her incredible new book that is sort of you can't even get because it's so popular right now, on the let them theory. Yeah. And at first I was sort of oh, this is sort of interesting. And, as I started to read it, spoiler alert if you haven't started it yet, but the second it's let them, but really the other side of it is let me, right? Yes. Let them say what they're going to say. Let them think what they're going to think. You spend all this energy trying to manage somebody else's expectations. And the answer is you're not going to be able to. So the only thing that you actually can control is the let me side of it, right? Like let me take action and own. And I think this is really a powerful part to top grade. Like what are you letting in? What are you consuming, right? In that information in your head and the stories that you're telling yourself. And by releasing them, it really creates a whole new space for growth.
It's so awesome. Highly recommend. Definitely come join us on that journey.
Absolutely. Which often means, right, you might have to let go or top grade some of the people, some of the circles that you have in your life to be able to get to the other side, right? So if you've got people that all they want to do is tell you all the problems, everything that's wrong, like it might not be, and some of these aren't people that we can't, right? We have an episode you missed on difficult people and difficult conversations, but you might not be able to necessarily release every single one of these relationships. But the goal is to create space for a top grading of maybe you need to identify if health is a big aspect, like is there a group that you could join that's really focusing on that? So when we talk about your network is your net worth. You're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Like proximity is power, all of these things. And so you do have to look up and think, where am I spending the majority of my time? And where and who is fueling that? What does that look like? What does their life look like? Do they reflect like the life that I'm trying to create? And if the answer is no, then in one of those aspects, you might say, you know what, I'm going to try to get into a different business circle to have a higher level conversation. I'm going to get into a different health circle. I'm going to get into a different like social circle. Maybe we focus more on like everybody sharing recipes as opposed to going out to the best restaurants. Like what does that look like for you so that those core relationships really reflect the growth and the person that you want to be on the other side?
I love that one. When you let go of what somebody's going to think about you if you do start top grading, like, because it's a you thing. It's not, oftentimes it's you growing, it's you needing something different. It's not necessarily that they're a bad person or the wrong person or that they've done anything. Sometimes it's just that where you're at is not going to get you to where you want to go if you don't change the rooms that you're in. And like I was talking with one of my friends this week and she was like, she's an incredible business person, someone I really have known forever and respect and admire. And she's like, I just finally came to the conclusion at the beginning of this year that if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to get what I've been getting. And I got to get in other rooms where people are talking about different things. And I have realized that I got to get in a room with people that are in similar like places to where I want to go in order to get there. And so she's like, I'm going to have to level up my coach. I'm going to have to level up my friend group. Like I'm going to have to level up some of the wealth building conversations I'm having because I've got big goals on where I want to go. And the rooms I'm in aren't going to get me there. And I thought, yeah, it's so true. And I think about even like, you know, as a competitive gymnast as a kid, we had different coaches for different levels. And when you progressed, you know, from like compulsory to elite as a gymnast, it was a totally separate set of coaches that coached you at a level 7, 8, 9, 10, then coached you from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think about that in our life. So many times we get attached to the person thinking, oh, I have to go forever with this person. But if we look at athletics, like NBA coaches often are not college coaches, are not often high school coaches, are not often middle school coaches. Like sometimes you've got to level that up and top grade that the person that's holding you accountable or the room that you're in. I think that's why Empire Circle for us has been so powerful because these women are literally leveling up every area of their life in a major, vulnerable, massive way. Like, and sometimes you just got to get yourself in a different room or around a different set of people in order to be able to do that next level.
100%. Yeah. I think sometimes our growth, even businesses, right, it's outgrowing the person or the product or the system or whatever, right, that you had. And so it literally is what's required. I love the conversation you were having with a good friend the other day. Like if you are comfortable with the results, right, you're satisfied with the results in every aspect of your life, well, then you're doing incredible. You're great.
Fantastic.
Right?
Don't change it.
Feel like they all have to be changed immediately, right? Like just look at one. So like what's the thing that you feel like, you know what, if in this area of my life I was able to create more momentum, it would have a big impact on everything else. Mm-hmm. And so whether that's health, finance, relationships, business, right? Pick one. And then think about, okay, what are the things from a systems, from a people standpoint that you could really help get in one different, like leveled up way to help move that forward.
Well, and I think the other part about that is sometimes I'm missing a system. And Kimber, you and I are even talking about this around like a difficult conversations episode we recorded recently around sometimes it is creating a better system that we have to top grade that actually gets us to where we want to go. And I think about this around like when Nick and I don't have a system around planning our annual travel, when we don't have a system around date nights, when we don't have a system around how we're going to work our family calendar, when I don't have a system around how often I'm seeing my mom or talking to my sister or my friends, there's oftentimes like a breakdown that happens where I'm not showing up in the best way in my relationships or in the best way in my business or the best way in my health. And it's because I just don't have a good, purposeful system in place for that is actually creating the security net or the safety for it. And so sometimes you don't need to actually go top grade a person. What you're doing is you need to go top grade the system and how you are in relationship with that person or the level of conversations you're having. I was thinking about this morning, Marie on our team, she and I have been in business together 21 years, which is so cool. And I was thinking this morning, we get together every week and we do a touch base, not because she really needs me to hold her accountable after 21 years, not because I need her to hold me accountable, but it's really for us just a joy to kick off our week that way. It's like one of the highlights of my week. And this morning I was walking with our dog Tari, and I thought, you know what? I need to level up those Monday conversations that we have. And I could be asking more powerful questions to bring us into better relationship, to make it more spicy. And it was just a system around like, I need to be doing a better job with that. And that actually is going to bring us closer and make that relationship even better. And so sometimes you're just missing a system. Sometimes it's as simple as like making sure you get your water for the day, or like we talked about earlier with your nutrition. But sometimes it's a system around a person that all of a sudden would make that person that you feel like isn't actually filling your bucket or isn't in the right mode. Maybe it's just a better system around it. And all of a sudden that relationship is flourishing in a different way.
Yeah. I love that. And I think again, like pick an element of that, right? Like look in your world and think of, okay, is there a system? Is there a relationship that maybe it's not like level up, top grade might not mean a replacement of the person.
That's right.
It might mean like that you're going to top grade how you guys interact to like get more juice out of that relationship for both of you, which is really powerful.
Yeah.
I think on the financial side, this is a big one, right? For our empire builders, This is likely a place that like, spoiler, you need to level up. Because a lot of times, I know for us, we started in the first few years, we had an amazing accounting team that like just did our taxes. They were great, kind of a bookkeeping service. And as entrepreneurs and real estate investors, and as our portfolio started to grow, like we had outgrown them so much, right? And we didn't even know it, right? Because we didn't know what we didn't know. And so being in some of the different rooms from a business standpoint, people started to mention things that we would go back to our accounting team, and they would be like, oh, no, you don't need to worry about that, or they didn't know what we were talking about. A good indicator that if you're taking something that maybe you've just heard a soundbite from and you take it back to the person who's supposed to be your advisor in that area and they can't answer it, or they try to tell you, no, that doesn't apply here, chances are you need to have a different conversation. And sometimes just looking up and saying, okay, well, who is servicing people who are at either where I'm at or where I want to go, right? So if you're a real estate investor, like that is their niche. They service high net worth real estate investor client. That's who you want, right? Because they're going to get you. I mean, I'll tell you, in those first few years, I mean, that represented hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax savings by just having people who knew the type of industry and business we were in. And granted, like when our team started 5 years earlier, that team knew they were the right people for where we were at that point.
Absolutely.
But as the business grew, they no longer were the team that could really advise us in a responsible way to help mitigate taxes, grow our business, grow our net worth. And so I think on the financial side, really looking ahead and thinking, okay, what are the rooms? What are the seminars? What are the sessions? Who should I be listening to, learning from to really help advise me? And I first say, who are their clients? The profile of who they also represent reflect the person and where we want to be in our trajectory, or getting those recommendations from people that you're like, you know what, they've got, at least I think that they've got a business that reflects what I want. So this is a great place to just think about, you know what, I need to top grade here.
Well, and that is, if you're feeling some pressure in that area or frustration, like that should be one of your first dominoes to focus on, because that will make everything else easier. So, Kimber, I want to like flip the script here for a second. And I want to talk about, okay, our businesses are doing well. We're starting to really get profitable, and we already have our cash reserves set aside. Okay, so Empire Builders, this is our cash reserves are set aside, and we're in a really healthy place with our business, with our personal finances. And all of a sudden now, like our world looks different. Our revenue looks different. Our profit looks different. And there's like some fun things we can have. And I have discovered, like, after being scrappy for so freaking long, one of our fellow co-hosts on Empire Building, Tiffany, talks about the word frugal. And I love her definition of this because this is really like how I've probably lived my entire life, which is you cut mercilessly on the things that do not matter. Like, if something is not important to you, don't go spend money on it. And then you can spend lavishly on the things that do. That's her definition of frugal, and I think it's so good. But you kind of get to a point with your finances when your businesses start doing well that all of a sudden you can top grade some things personally around you. And so some of those things I think about would be like if you're top grading your car or remodeling things in your house. For us, it was buying our lake house up in Michigan, and that was a top grade for us that we had on our vision board for 5 years, and I kept cutting it and just literally pasting it to the next year. I didn't even reprint it. I just cut it out, put it to the next, cut it out, put it to the next. But what was cool is having vision of where we wanted to go with that. Literally, when the time came that we could actually afford it and work out the investment angle to make it happen, that dang lake house was jumping off of the page because we had dared to envision where we wanted to go. And it allowed us to top grade an underperforming rental property to be a better performing investment for us up in Michigan, which is amazing. But it was a top grade opportunity because we were thinking about it. And so I would say to you, are there things in your world that would like to have in the future that maybe you haven't done yet? And are you thinking about it? Are you putting intention around it? Are you actively, researching it to where when the right time comes, you actually have the opportunity to pull the trigger because you already know what it is that you want to do when the profit's rolling in. So I just want to say it's a fun thing to be thinking about is what would you top grade if you had the revenue to do it so that you know where you would spend it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as we continue on that, thinking about how you would top grade or how you need to be thinking about top grading of yourself, right? I think a lot of times the Empire Builder, you are thinking about your self-care last, right? The last thing you're thinking about is how you actually sustain, manage stress, and just what are some of those things that are also very, very small. It could be I think, is it Sue right now who introduced us all to these incredible, sheets.
Yes. Cozy Earth. Yeah.
Cozy Earth.
We're not actually getting paid to say that.
We're not. But we could be Cozy Earth if you're listening. But this idea that what are some small ways, maybe something that you interact with every day, right when you get into bed and you're like, oh my goodness, right? This is incredible. It feels amazing. For me, it was buying a really fancy coffee maker. I have this great coffee maker, and it leveled up 2 areas of my life, right? Because it also leveled up financially because I'm not spending $10 every morning to get a coffee on the way into the office. And I have it created an amazing self-care system because now I have a beautiful system in the morning that allows me to win the morning pretty much every day and start it and have a really powerful way. So being able to just reflect on both the big things, but also are there little things in your life which you're you know what, I've earned that. I can replace this one part of thing in our life to the next thing, especially something that you can use and experience and benefit and makes your life just a little bit better every single day. And top grading that one area can be really powerful.
Okay, I want to hear what other ones you've done. So one for me is I have discovered for PJs, terry cloth cotton pajamas are the one fabric I want for PJs, or when I'm loungewear. That is it. And so I literally got rid of everything else and only have really soft terry cloth cotton PJs. And the other thing I leveled up were my slippers, which I discovered, I was what? Boiled wool slippers? Why didn't I know about these 30 years ago? They were a little bit more expensive, but I won't have to buy another pair of slippers for years. And they bring me so much joy, and I put them right by the bed in the morning, and I hop out and I get in my little slippers, and I'm just it's a very simple, small splurge, but it brings immense amounts of joy. What other areas of your life, Kimber, the personal top grades that it doesn't necessarily break the bank, but it's a joy thing for you?
Yes, it's a joy. Well, I love, like, you're kind of in our own circle, the person who's always thinking about these amazing, like, gifts that you would love to have but never would buy for yourself. And so,
Totally.
like, this blanket, like, Say just got us all these incredible blankets for the holidays right before the big, like, right, half the United States was under ice and snow. And when I say that thing has brought so much joy in our house,
It's the
like,
Lola blanket. Yeah.
literally, I come home and, Cam's, like, snuggled underneath it. Like, I think Tiffany said her boys have a timer where they're literally like, you get 30 minutes, you get 30 minutes. But it's like something so simple, this, like, amazing, cozy, kind of, like, wraps you in. Something as simple as that. And you might say, like, is that really a top grade? But it's a top grade in the sense that, like, is there something that even somebody else, right? Like a hack that somebody else has that could create an experience that actually, like you're saying, like, you could enjoy. And so I've loved that because I feel like I'm not always even dialed into the thing that could be like a cool way to, like, one of the gifts I got for Christmas, which is kind of wild. It's like an eye mask, but it has like a Bluetooth in it. And so you can, like, play music, like, right. So you can do, like, your meditation. I mean, it's like, I would have never. And yet, like, it's incredible, right? It's really helps me, like, right, when I'm trying to do my meditations in the morning, my mindfulness, and, like, to be able to put this on and, like, be able to completely zone out. So I think thinking about even asking, like, back to the circles that you're in, like, what are things that people are like, I could not live without this small item. And it might not be something you're ready to buy today, but knowing that you are even just keeping a list of, like, hey, these are the things that, like, if I had a little bit extra or I want to try out and interact them into your life. But you deserve it. And those are type grades that allow you to have self-care every single day.
Well, and what's kind of fun is that if you top grade slowly over time, it's like you don't need to go replace your whole closet right away, or you don't have to go, like, throw everything out and buy everything. These are simple things that, when purposefully bought with thought and intention behind it, that bring you joy, it all of a sudden levels up the experience. And I think that's what I have so much fun when I get to help work with Michaela on our Her Best Life team with the swag. For me, it's exactly what you said. It's what would I not buy for myself, but that I would really enjoy. And it's a very fun experience when all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like, this brings joy. Like, this is something that I really appreciate, or, like, I use. So I think about that. Like, it doesn't need to be everything in your house. You don't need to go buy the most expensive dishes and the most expensive silverware. If that's not important to you, don't go do it. Only do it on the things that really matter, so that your profitability and your cash reserves don't go tanking. So do it responsibly.
And I gamify it, like, thinking about some of those items. What is the goal that you're trying to hit, even on the micro level? Like, what's your goal for the month that you're like, okay, when I hit this, I get to go either have this experience, do this thing, right? And so it ties to Say's point, right? Like, we can't all just go replace everything in our lives at once to top grade everything. But you could say, like, you know what? I'm going to, even on a 4-1-1, even on your, like, cadence of how you're going to, like, set your goals for a period of time, and say, okay, when I hit this goal with this result, this is the reward. And having those rewards tie to things that are going to help create that top grading outcome for you in your world.
I love that. Well, and then the last thing I think about when I think about top grading too, that I'll throw in here is like your play. Like, how you play, what your experiences look like. And this could be anything from, like, experiences with date nights, or, like, live music that you want to go see. It could be travel, vacations. Like, Nick and I were on a walk the other day, and Kimber, you actually don't even know this, but you inspired this conversation when we were talking about kids and how many summers we have in the house. And, we talk about this all the time, but it's like, your comment of, like, really, you got to plan some of this stuff out a couple of years. And so Nick and I even just started talking about, like, okay, if we had 3 bucket list trips before Quinn is out of the house and into college, right? Like, she's 10, almost 11. So if we did one every other year, one every 2 or 3 years, like, where are the places? And it was so interesting because he actually was like, New Zealand is at the top of my list. I was like, did not even know that. Like, literally, we have never talked about that. And it was a conversation because of our friend group and having these more powerful conversations, right? That all of a sudden that came up. And so I think about that of, like, how could then we be purposeful in planning for that, and purposeful about actually looking out on the calendar and going ahead and reserving a chunk of time to make that happen. And if 2 or 3 years ahead of time, you could set aside a certain amount of money every month, and it would be paid for well in advance of getting out there, because you just did it incrementally, and all of a sudden it's there. So I think about, like, on the little instances, like Valentine's is coming up. Another example is, like, I found a cake decorating class in the neighborhood that we're going to go do this Saturday, because, like, Kimber and I are in completely opposite worlds, and I'm in all things girly all the time. And Kimber's in all things masculine all the time right now. And I was like, this would be so fun. Let's invite a friend, another mom. Let's go do a cake decorating class together. But like just trying to get intentional around like what would be a fun experience that we might not necessarily go do normally that would be something different. So I don't know, I'm thinking about it differently. But like that's an easy way to level up with just a little bit of intention.
That's right. And I think this whole movement of like experiences over things to really think about what are those experiences that you'd want to have that are really leveling up to just like the interactions you have with the people that are most important to you. So how could you take something that maybe has always been the pattern and level that up and top grade that up and create a different interaction? I know Diane, one of our amazing also HBL founders, does experiences with her girls. So for Christmas, they get to kind of pick their own experience that they get to have. And that's the gift, right? And so that really levels up your interaction, your relationship, what you get to do as opposed to all the things. And so it's another way to just think differently about what interactions do you want to have and how do you take them to the next level?
I love that. Well, I hope today as an empire builder, maybe we've made you think about things a little differently. Maybe you're actually experiencing this growth and hadn't given yourself permission to embrace it and to chase it and find joy in it. And we just want to give you permission today as you're building your big business. Don't forget to go out there and build your big life too. And the journey's worth it. It's awesome. And if you're top grading some things in your world, we'd love to hear about it from you too. So go out there and build that big business and that even bigger life. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a great week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.